Welcome to the 38th episode of the GameFor podcast. In this episode, still recording from home and sponsored by Gaddis Gaming, we'll be talking about how to support your friendly local game store during this pandemic. I'm Adam.
I'm Matt.
And we're part of GameFor. This is the GameFor podcast for trying to build community and teach people about tabletop gaming, how to get into different types of tabletop gaming, how to think about staying motivated with their tabletop gaming, and eventually, once we can all start playing together again, how to build community in your local area with other tabletop gamers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Then let's hope. Someday soon. I know that as we're recording this, I think in a couple of days, I think the UK is going back into lockdown, and I think also maybe Germany and maybe France. But so we'll see how it goes. But until then, we're going to try to keep positive and keep moving along and keep gaming. Speaking of that, like, what have you been doing recently in your gaming and hobbying, Matt?
Sure. So last week, I was able to do a one shot. I think I talked about it a little bit. That I was going to be doing for kind of like a Halloween themed D&D, and I was actually going to get to play. So we got to play that. I believe we started at I think like 8 o'clock at night, and we played to about 2:30 in the morning.
Wow.
I think kind of at the end we were kind of like all just like, okay, let's wrap up some stuff. It was definitely a longer one shot than what we were thinking it would be, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. We were kind of playing some fun characters. That's kind of one of the advantages of doing something like that, is that you're not tied to this character concept. You can kind of try out some stuff. I was kind of a creepy necromancer that just enjoyed bringing things back to dead. So I was okay if one of my party members died, because hey, they don't actually leave me.
Exactly. It's not a
Right.
it's not a downside. It's an opportunity. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
Indeed.
I get to shop local there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Going with our theme for the podcast today.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was fun. It was a fun little creepy thing, and I really enjoyed friend Josh. That was the first time I got to game with him. Met him through actually through GameFor. So one of our, I think he was looking for some local games, and ended up being on our Discord server, and I think quite a few months of trying to get things to work out where I could game. So yeah, it was fun. There was 5 of us. So
Yeah. I
good
mean,
times.
sometimes it doesn't always like immediately happen. You know what I mean? It's not like a video game where you click the multiplayer button. Sometimes it takes a little while, especially with role playing, to get everybody on the same date and the same page and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
But yeah, we're already talking about maybe making it a every other month thing, kind of a one shot, and someone will run it. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, it's fun to kind of have a more casual one, that especially if I don't have to DM. I like DMing, but it was fun just kind of being in the player, and trying to like solve the puzzles and be on that side of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would think just kind of taking the break from time to time is also nice too.
And even though I did have the opportunity, I did not burn the place down, which is how I did the last one shot I did. I ended up accidentally, and then kind of on purpose, burning down the mansion that I was exploring, which caused all the bad guys to leave, and then I was able to take care of them. Could have done that at this haunted house as well, but decided to kind of play it a little more straight up.
Well, sometimes the issues kind of write the answer for you. So yeah, I mean, yeah,
exactly.
It happens. Absolutely. What other kind of stuff have you been working on?
I just got done printing every about once every month or quarter. A lot of the 3D sculpting manufacturers, selling places will send you like samples and stuff like that. Typically they're just like, oh, here's a roof modification 32, which this board is turned to the left instead of the right. So you're like, okay, whatever. It does. But Black Squirrel Games for Halloween sent a really cool sculpt that has like a beholder pumpkin jack-o'-lantern that's kind of coming out of the pumpkin patch with like they did it clear filament, so that or not clear filament, but the filament was thin enough at the so that the eye, you could put an LED behind the eye, um, that lit it up, and then also still backlit it from underneath. So even without it being painted, it's coming out like really cool. So I'm looking forward to painting that.
Yeah, I saw a picture, I think, on your Twitter or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
or
was a cool looking. It was
Instagram.
cool looking.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was very cool.
yeah. I was shocked that, yeah, like how well. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So yeah, I like stopped everything I was doing and printed it up.
And
Um,
you did that resin or filament?
I did it resin, yep.
Hmm, hmm.
And I did it. I actually, there was like one piece I didn't really like how it came out, so I tweaked a couple of things and reprinted that one piece. But I mean, for the most part, it came out perfect from the get go. So yeah,
Nice.
I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to
yeah.
kind of finishing that up.
That's cool.
And then my ongoing D&D campaign, they just wrapped up the third level of the Dungeon of the Mad Mage. So
Hmm.
they're about to head down to a new level, which will be fun.
Would
Yeah,
that be the
more of
fourth?
a.
Would that be the fourth level?
It will be the fourth level,
See, I'm good at this stuff.
but it's fun because like I know all the stuff that's coming, and they're starting to like figure out some of the mechanics that are working out, and like, oh,
Hmm.
I think this stuff is working. So they're starting to find some of the stuff. So, I think there was kind of a little lull where I'm like, ooh, I hope this will keep everybody's interest. But I'm hoping that now that they just leveled up recently too, so they've got a lot of new spells and fun, toys. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we're all excited to play. I think we're playing like a week or two from now.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
but
That's
yeah,
cool.
no, yeah. How about you?
Well, let's see. I have been on Twitch. I've been streaming still on Monday nights and Friday mornings, and I
Hmm.
finished up. Actually, Monday night I finished up my second batch of night haunts for Warcry. So I had done on Twitch. I had done a group of 6 chain rasps, and
Okay.
they were done already. And then I have been working on a group of 4 Grimghast Reapers, and so they are
Okay.
basically done. I have to just finish painting up their bases, but it's pretty simple stuff on their bases, so I don't bother to do that on Twitch because it's sort of boring to watch. So
Mm.
I'm going to do that.
Now,
So now, oh yeah, go ahead.
is that complete then for that like war band or whatever it's called?
No, no, it's not, and that's the thing is. So I've got a decision, and I started realizing as I was streaming on Monday night. But my decision is: do I continue and do all I have left to do for this entire warband that I well it's actually enough models that I can make 4 different warbands, but there's a
Oh,
lot of
nice.
overlap. So, but it gives me options, is what I did. So I
Mm.
like basically wrote up 4 different lists, saw where the overlap was, and then said, okay, these are all of the models that make that entire Venn
Oh,
diagram,
that's a good way
and
to
that's
do it.
what I've been working on. So, I still have 2 Banshees and then 3 separate kind of singles. There's a Spirit Torment, a Lord Executioner, and a Knight of Shrouds. And so I got to decide now: do I want to on Friday continue to work on those guys, or I also am kicking around the idea of switching to working on Tyranids for Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team, because I've got them built, painted, their bases are textured, everything's ready to go. I've been wanting to work on them for a while, and so I'm just trying to decide whether I want to say, well, I'll finish the rest of the Night Haunts myself, not on stream. The thing is,
Mm.
is that when I'm painting stuff on stream, I don't want to paint it off stream. I don't want to like be working on some models and then as the week goes by, I do a bunch more work. And then when you show up again on Friday, I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, I did all this extra stuff.
Sure.
So if when there's times when I want to paint, like on the weekend or on a Tuesday or whatever, I want to have another project going on so that I can paint on that. You know what I mean? Not on stream. So I've got to make a decision by Friday whether I want to finish up the rest of those guys on stream or if I want to switch gears over to the Tyranids. I mean, the Night Haunts made sense with October because it was it's spooky and
Sure.
Halloween and stuff like that, and they're like ghosts. But so yeah, I'm trying to figure that out and just determine, hopefully by Friday, which way I'm going to go with that. So
Okay.
yeah, I've been doing that, and then I actually purchased a new board game, sort
A
of. I mean,
board game.
I did purchase it. I'm not saying sort of I purchased it, but it's sort of a board game. It's on a
Okay.
board. I was watching the Board Game Geek Twitch channel actually, and they were playing a game. It was Nikki and Lincoln, and they were
Hmm.
playing a game called a game of cat and mouth. And
Okay.
it's I think from the same people, the guy who does the comic, the Oatmeal.
Yep. Exploding kittens, all that
He
stuff.
did
Yep.
Exploding Kittens and all that kind of stuff. Well, this is from the same group, and it's a board game sort of. It's not. Well, it's hard to explain. Basically, the box unfolds into almost like a small little tiny ping pong table sort of thing, but instead of a
Okay.
net in the middle, there is this thing you put in the middle that is a cat's face, cartoon cat,
Okay.
and then he has a mouth, and you're trying to shoot the balls through the mouth to the other side, and each of you has 4 balls. So you're trying to get all 8 balls to go on that other side because then you'll get a point, or they're trying to get them to go on your. And then the teeth, there's little teeth that go in the mouth, which are just white balls, and they just sort of
Mm.
rest on this thing. And if you can knock all 3 of those onto your opponent's side, you'll get a point for that as well. Plus, there's a nose, which is a single black one, but it's in a really small hole. Like you have to hit it just perfectly dead on to knock it over. And
Uh-huh.
and the way you flick these balls back and forth at each other is you have this kind of cat paw that's made out of plastic, and
That's awesome.
it has a strong magnet in the bottom. And when you set it down on the board in the right spot, you can put a ball in it and rock it backwards. And when you let it go, it flings forward and it flicks this
Oh,
ball out.
jeez.
And so when you put the box all together and stuff like that, it has walls on the sides, so you're less likely to shoot the balls all over the house and things like
Uh,
that. But you're still going to probably do it a little bit. But
nice.
yeah, so I watched them playing it on stream, and I was like, well, that seems pretty fun, and I think my wife and I might like that. So, and it reminds me, like I've got another game that's also like that to some degree, that is called Click Clack Lumberjack.
Yep.
I don't know if you've seen that one. So
Oh, yep.
that
Yep.
was,
I've played that.
yeah, and originally the original, when it was made in South Korea, it was called Tok Tok Woodsman, I believe. But
Yep.
when they brought it to America, it was called Click Clack Lumberjack, and it's kind of like Jenga. You have this sort of plastic tree, and there's pieces of bark that are stuck to outsides of each of the slices of the wood, which is actually still all plastic as well. And you have this
Yep.
little axe, and you're trying to like knock it so that the bark falls off, but the wood doesn't, and all that stuff. So it's kind of like Jenga, except you're not pulling parts out; you're thwacking them with a tiny little axe to get parts to fall off without other parts falling off. And
Yeah. No, I like dexterity games. They're fun.
yeah,
I think one of the other ones I like is oh shoot, Terror in Meeple City. I believe it was originally called Rampage, but then the people who owned the rights to the video game Rampage did not like
oh,
the use of their name.
Midway maybe I think might have owned it. Yeah.
Probably, yeah, or whoever owns it now. So they had to change it to Terror in Meeple City. But yeah, you're basically a giant monster flicking some meeple across the city to knock other meeple out so that you can eat
Mm-hmm.
them.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah, so it's I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I have to clean off the dining room table a little bit. Things have a tendency to accumulate here, and then
Mm.
we'll have to play some of that. I think.
Yeah, yeah, you got to stream that or film it at least.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that'd be sort of fun.
I I'm curious to see what Diesel and the other cats are going to think in the background.
Well, that's the other issue, though, too, isn't it? Is that if we do it up here in the living room, it's going to be potentially a little bit too much for the cats, and they're going to want to play as well, which probably not going to work out so hot. But yeah,
Or it'll
so
be
that's
perfect.
yeah, or potentially, it depends on the outcome, I guess. Yeah, but yeah, so that's basically about it. I mean, otherwise, I don't know. I ordered a new PC, which hopefully will be showing up in theory tomorrow,
Hmm.
and so I'll be hopefully this weekend trying to get that set up and everything, and then maybe play some PC games down the road.
Mm.
Otherwise, yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
It's
I got to use something that I hadn't talked to you about.
oh yeah, what's that?
That just made me think that. So I did a print job for a friend. He
Hmm.
wanted it's a Viking chess set. It's not really chess, but they call it Viking chess, and it's got a whole
Hmm.
name and that I can't pronounce because even though my heritage comes from there, I can't pronounce anything with the
Sure.
Swedish, Norwegian, Scandinavian name. But anyway, that was all done with filament,
Hmm.
and he was going to paint it up. And while the print came out pretty smooth, I wanted to try out the Badger 3D filler stuff I think I talked about a long time ago that I
Yeah,
ordered.
the filler primer, you spray it through your airbrush,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
designed for 3D filament prints.
yeah, for the stylations, I think is what they call it,
Mm.
stylation filler or whatever.
Mhm.
So I tried that out on these pieces, and oh my gosh, I was actually super impressed. Like,
Really?
wasn't
Nice.
yeah, I wasn't. I was kind of like, it's probably gonna do okay, but I don't know. Yeah, no, it did phenomenal. To the point where like I thought they were like nicely done before. Afterwards, they looked uh completely smooth and they felt smooth. Yeah, like I wouldn't use it for everything because I think it would take away some details and some stuff. But for something
Sure,
like
yeah.
this, where they were like just pieces that were like supposed to be nice, smooth faces,
Mhm.
perfect application for that. And yeah, I will probably be using that again in the future.
Nice. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No, I've heard about that stuff, and I've got some. I think I'm 98% sure I own some of that stuff too. Yeah, but I've not used it yet. I haven't done a lot of printing on my filament printer in a long time. So, but I do
yeah,
have some pieces from Imperial Design or Imperial Terrain for
mm,
the Star Wars Legion game. Some
yeah. Like
terrain, like
terrain,
Tatooine
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
think terrain would look really good with it.
Yeah,
Yeah. hmm
yeah. I'll have to
So
definitely
yes,
check that out. That makes
worth the
sense.
hype. For what I used, sprayed on really nice, dried up really easy. So yeah, honestly, I was pleasantly surprised at how well it worked.
Hmm. Well, when you have those kind of striations and stuff like that, that you get generally in filament prints,
Yeah,
it's harder sometimes to get them out to go away. But yeah, okay, that's good to
right.
know about that spray
Yeah, because I've
because I
done
have.
some sanding and stuff like that, but have
Yeah.
never been super happy with it. Yeah, no, this was really quick because he had me print 36 of the small pieces and one of the kings, and then I had a couple of misprints that I did as well, so
Hmm.
that they were good test pieces for him because he wanted to do the painting himself.
Yeah.
Uh, so it was like probably like 38, 40 pieces altogether, and took me less than 30 minutes to do all of them.
To spray them.
Yeah,
Nice. Yeah.
and dried a couple hours later, and yeah, no, so
Yeah, no, that's very cool. Like I said, I've got some buildings that I might try that on, just to try to like. There's some spots where like you can see the striations more than others,
hmm
specifically like in like gentle curves and things like that, like
yep,
on the roofs of some of the buildings. You can kind
yep,
of see it. And I know
yep,
people will sometimes use Bondo and things like that and everything, but I just yeah,
right,
this if this is easier to do, I would rather do it that way.
yeah, no, I would say definitely give it a try. This was kind of like the perfect try for this, because I could reprint some if they didn't work, but yeah,
Sure.
as soon as I got a couple done, I'm like, okay, yep, I'm gonna keep doing all these, and
Yeah,
so
nice. Actually, this whole week is going to be nice and warm here in our neck of the woods, and I was thinking about doing some priming anyway of some terrain, like just the last hurrah before
hmm
winter comes. I should probably get motivated on that. Is what I should do. All right. Well, we've got a sponsor in this video from our
yay,
friends over at Gaddis Gaming. On November 10th, 2020, which is coming up real soon, our friends at Gaddis Gaming will be launching their sixth Kickstarter campaign. And for the first time, that puts great forgotten heroes of the 20th century back in action on your tabletop. This will be a follow up to their World War One alternate history success, Shattered Crown, which I know you've played and Jason's
yep,
played and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
love
absolutely.
it.
Their new game, Empire's Fall, showcases the 761st Tank Battalion, also known as the Black Panthers, the first all black U.S. tank unit inside an alternate World War II landscape. Although some history has shifted, gamers can bring the real heroism of these overlooked African American soldiers to the field and take the motto of the 761st, come out fighting, to heart. If you join the more than 100 followers that are already watching this campaign on Kickstarter, Lee will randomly choose one of you to receive the top $300 Kickstarter tier, a fully pre assembled and painted army for free. That's the contest. All
That's
backers
awesome.
of the Kickstarter not only receive an exceptional game loaded with custom dice and miniatures, but a collection of real history that has been forgotten for too long. They have been written out of history, and it's your job to bring them back in. Will you help them? Follow the link on gaddisgaming.com. That is GADDISGAMING.com in our show notes. And thank you to Gaddis Gaming for sponsoring the Game4 podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
absolutely.
gotten some sneak peeks of what's coming and blown away. Absolutely blown away with the artwork and level of finish and stuff that's coming to
Hmm.
this one. I've
Yeah.
always liked his games. The his guard system is it was kind of unique that it's it's all D10s,
Yeah, yeah.
which helps me from a math perspective figure out odds and stuff better than a
Oh, yeah.
D6.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Um, yeah, so it's always just kind of clicked with me. And so it's going on with that, and there's like it's a whole new level. Plus, it's in World War II, so I can use some of my bolt action stuff with it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this.
Well, I've got the ball tank that he did in the last Kickstarter, and
Yes,
that you can use that in this too, right? Or is
yes,
that
absolutely.
aimed
Yep,
towards
yep.
the army? Yeah, yeah.
Nope, that was that
That's
was
cool.
from this. That was like the first one. I think there's possibly another similar one coming to this as like a
Mhm.
stretch goal add on. Yeah, there's some cool stuff coming with it. Yeah, he's been working on this one for a couple of years now.
Nice.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
should be
Yeah,
really
yeah.
excited. We're really excited to see that he's launching this. Like I checked this morning, it was like 140 followers. And he just
On
had like I
Kickstarter?
think, yeah, Kickstarter. I think he had only like maybe 20 last week when he first launched it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it seems like a lot of interest is getting into it already. So
Yeah, no, that's very cool. Absolutely. And we interviewed him not too long ago, and we're going to have him on again
yeah,
soon, right? Yep.
yep, I believe. Yeah, actually, even maybe the next episode,
Mhm.
he'll be on talking about. I believe we're going to talk about making your first game or getting into game design. So
Yeah, yeah. No, that'll be very cool.
yeah.
Yeah. So, in case you've not heard, there is this pandemic that's been going on
Hmm.
for a while now. Yeah, yeah. It's been in the news a couple of times, and all jokes aside, it's obviously been a big struggle for nearly everybody, globally in some way or another, and
Hmm.
especially like because we're focusing on predominantly tabletop gaming here, we wanted to talk this week about ways that you can help to support your local gaming store, your friendly local gaming store, your FLGS, in
Absolutely.
this kind of unprecedented time where we've got like lockdowns happening again in a lot of places, and just a lot of different things that are causing trouble as far as retail stores in general are concerned, but specifically
Right.
because game stores are generally smaller. They're not generally corporate run. They don't have huge war chests and things like that. They're a
Right.
little bit closer to the vest as far as that's concerned. So yeah, many small businesses are struggling right now because of the global pandemic, but retail locations specifically are struggling because of, like I said, it's just like, in some places you're not even supposed to be open, if that's the case right now.
Right.
Other places, like I know my local game shop has got a limit of like, I think it's maybe 10 people in the store and you got to wear a mask and
Hmm.
stuff like that, which is smart. It's all smart stuff, but
Right.
it does definitely cause some trouble with
Absolutely.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this on the podcast many times that a lot of the strength and robustness and basically the reason that the gaming industry is really striving is, I mean, a lot of that is built on the shoulders of your local shops.
Oh yeah,
They're,
absolutely,
they're the
absolutely.
ones that are getting new people into it, getting people into new games,
Hmm.
helping them understand games. I mean, they're really the cornerstone for the industry. So while yeah, you could maybe save a few bucks by buying off online, if you keep doing that, you might not have a game store or even a strong tabletop industry in a few years.
Right, and part of it is, I mean, it depends on the genre.
Hmm.
Most people who play, let's say, role playing games have a tendency to play either at somebody's home, or something like that. Or obviously these days it's a lot of online, and all this stuff's got a lot of online right now. But in non-pandemic times, it's a lot of like, oh, we're all going to go over to Bob's house and we're going to play or whatever, that kind of thing. But there are
Right.
also people, I've seen it, I can't tell you how many different times, people who get together and play at game stores. Like there are plenty of game
Hmm.
stores that have special role-playing rooms, and those rooms aren't getting rented out right now. You know
Right.
what I mean? If you're playing miniatures, like tabletop wargaming miniatures, there's, especially in America, that's a lot of times where people go to play games. They don't play at their house. They don't have a club. Overseas, you've got, like in the UK, like wargaming clubs are a bigger thing, which is
Hmm.
basically like a store without any product. It's just basically we all pay dues and then we are able to rent some space someplace, and then we get together
Right.
on certain nights of the week. But to have more flexibility, be able to play at the store whenever they're open, that's very nice. To be able to actually just bring your army to the store and wait to see if someone else comes in. And very
Right.
frequently stores will have events like, oh, casual Star Wars Legion night on Wednesdays, and then people show up and play
Right.
or whatever.
Where you can find,
And
yeah, you can find people that are gaming that are into the same games that you are, or you can find new
exactly, yeah.
games. I like free RPG day.
Hmm.
I DM'd and had people that hadn't played or ever before or hadn't played in years, and because the local stores were running that, they were able to get back into it. That's so yeah,
Yeah.
it helps cycle everything through and give you more people to play with.
And then with board gaming, a lot of people board game generally kind of at home with friends, but there are also plenty of times when you want to meet other people and play board games. There's certain, in many stores
Well,
have board game nights.
right, and big game, board game demo libraries. I mean, we
Yeah.
joke all the time about the 9,565 board games that have come out in the last 5 minutes.
Hmm.
You can't buy them all, nor
No, yeah.
even maybe know all of them about it. But you can certainly try out a lot of them using the library, playing with friends, um, and then having the recommendations of what
Yeah.
to buy.
And
Consignment, cleaning up the game space that we talked about.
yeah, and there's a
Good
lot of
good place
stores
to
that are
sell it.
doing used gaming now. Like, they're
Right.
selling used games and things like that, kind of on consignment and whatnot. You're seeing more and more of that recently because, frankly, it was from a guy that we know. There was a guy named Brian who owns a shop in Madison, Wisconsin called I'm Bored Games, and a number of years ago at a big kind of like retailer conference, he ran a seminar teaching people how he was doing his used games in the store and how he just everything step by step completely laid it all out. And I was in that seminar, and I remember looking around, looking at retailers, and they were just like writing furiously, like taking notes
Mm,
and copiously. And I know a lot of places have leapt up into that because there's a lot of people who have board games that want to like shift them and get some other board games, and this is a great way
right.
to do it. It's the stores are very useful because you can basically bring it in there and then you get like credit, and then you can use it at the store to buy your
Right. And it's not
stuff.
like
And
the one particular video game store that you turn in 30 games and you get $1.
right,
You're
exactly, yeah, yeah.
most of the time you're getting, for especially games that are still fairly popular, almost what you paid for it back, depending on the
But
quality
potentially
and,
on the
stuff.
quality, yeah,
But
certainly
getting quite a good trade in
a
for
decent
it
return, yeah, yeah.
that you can find other games. So it makes the whole buying new game seem less daunting, and
Hmm. And there are plenty of stores also that have, like you said before, libraries where you can check out and play new games to check them out to see if it's something you're interested in. I've also seen some stores that even do basically rental programs where you come in and
mm,
you rent the game and you take it home and play it, and then if you bring it back in and decide, yeah, I like this, then you get basically your rental fee taken off of the purchase, so you're not like having to rent it and then buy it at full price. If it costs you $10 to rent it or $5 or whatever, when you come back in and say, yeah, I want to buy that, well, then you get $5 off the product. And
that's awesome.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean that kind of stuff is something that you can only get at game stores. And
Right.
obviously with
Target's not going to do this.
exactly, and Amazon's not going to do this,
Hmm.
and all that kind of stuff. And also, obviously, if you're into Magic and games like that, Friday Night Magic is a big deal, and that's also something that I mean, right now, Friday Night Magic is basically like Wizards has said, from what I've been told from a game store owner friend of mine, that Wizards is just like, don't do Friday Night Magic right now
Right.
because they don't want people playing in stores and spreading, the COVID.
Hmm.
So, but when that is able to come back, like that's the best place to go to like learn
Right.
how to play against a lot of different people, a lot of different decks, a lot of different play styles.
Yeah. We talked to a number of game store owners who talk about how some of their Magic players will go, well, I'm just going to do a draft at home. And
Right.
that seems to happen like one time, and then they're like, "Absolutely, I'd never ever want to have to run that again.
Right.
Like, please run it for
Yeah.
us."
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, we did an interview with a woman from a game store that's on another video on this channel, and she said, yeah, they're like, well, I can draft. We'll just do a draft at our house, and then later on you hear from that person, yeah, we don't want to do that anymore. It's much easier to do it here at the store.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean that kind of stuff I think makes a lot of sense, and so. Game stores are kind of a hub, and they should be, and we need to keep them around. So we're going to try to talk about some ways here,
Right.
how we can do
Yeah.
that.
and we're going to
Because
be kind of general, because obviously we don't know what your local store is doing specifically.
certainly, yeah.
Some are allowing limited shopping with no events. Some are just
Hmm.
curbside. Some are
Yep.
doing just online orders. Email them, call them, and ask them what they're doing. If you're not sure, they'll tell you. They'll tell you the best way to shop.
But the thing that they're not doing in most situations is they're not having in-store gaming. So because of that, they're not selling snacks. They're not getting event fees. They're not, like if you go and hang out in the store all day, you're more likely to buy something. If you're there playing games, you're more likely to buy something, hopefully, than not.
Right.
And they don't have those people in the shop right now. And so that's part of the reason why we kind of need to look at this kind of stuff. So I mean, obviously, and it seems simple to some degree, but number one is if you can buy local. I mean, you need to be
Hmm.
able to, even if it's something your store doesn't really carry necessarily, like they maybe not are, they're maybe not into. Let's say that they don't carry miniature games too much. It's just not part of the purview of what your local game store is into. If you're
Right.
still interested in having that store stay around and you need to order some paints or some paint sets or some new models or whatever, go and talk to them because they've got distribution at the very
Hmm.
least, that can probably order some of that stuff. Even a company like Games Workshop has its own distribution, but a lot of distributors also sell that same stuff. So if you may not have a Games Workshop contract as a store, but you probably work through somebody like Alliance or ACD or any one of those companies,
Right.
and then you can get that same stuff through them.
Like especially stuff that's like overseas, or stuff that maybe
Mm-hmm.
their websites. Like I know that I'm not going to name drop anything, but there was a couple items that I looked at those manufacturers specifically to buy from their websites, and the shipping was a little high, and I wasn't sure
Mm,
about the product and stuff like that, and I didn't see it at my local game store, but I asked, and you know
yeah.
what? They were like, "Yeah, we'll order that in." Ordered it in. I didn't have to pay any shipping. I got it
Mm,
for MSRP, which I would have gotten off the website. Plus, like I got my local rewards, so it earned, so for the store, like a
mm,
lot of them have your local, buy
yep.
so much and you get so much off type thing.
Yeah.
So I got all those bonuses, and all I had to do was ask, and I probably got it even faster than if I ordered it off the website.
In some situations, yeah, it depends on the company. Like sometimes those companies, like if they're already in American distribution, or let's say it's an
Right.
American company that's already in UK distribution, depending on where you are or whatever, you have to take that into consideration. But yeah, I mean, if it's a company that you can get stuff from very frequently, it's through distribution. Not always. There are obviously some companies out there that only sell through their own website, small,
Right.
very indie manufacturers. But then basically almost nobody can order from them except direct from the user. So that's not who we're talking about here.
Right.
Um, but for other bigger things, paint companies, board game companies, yeah, obviously like collectible card games, all that kind of stuff. Generally, it's things that you can get through distribution. So if that's the case, then your local store can probably get it. And that's and again, they're getting it at a cheaper price, and then they get the profit from it, and that helps to keep them afloat. And you still get it at the very least at MSRP. And again, like you said, that's a good point. I'd forgotten about that. Many game stores also have some sort of rewards program where they like track like how many purchases you make. Like our local store here, after $100 worth of stuff, you get a $15 basically coupon on your next order. So
Right.
that's a good way to kind of do that kind of stuff. Um, Another thing you can do if your game store is still open and if it is like allowing you to come in and do things and whatnot, rather than just running in once in a while to pick up a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Um, I mean, it's not a bad idea. Like I try not to go to the grocery store too frequently. I try to go once every like 2 weeks, and then you go and you
Hmm.
stock up, and then you don't go because it's just smarter than making too many trips as far as the virus is concerned. Same thing here with the game store. I would tell you that go in and say, okay, well, I know I'm going to be doing this. I know I'm going to be doing that, and stock up. That helps them too because it's also it's a little bit if you can afford it, it's more money up front in their pocket. I mean, obviously, if you can't afford it, that's a different story. But if you can afford it, rather than just going in and buying, oh, I just need this one paint, go in and go, well, I know these three paints are getting low, so I'll buy now. Or I know I need these brushes, or I know I need probably some more dice,
Right.
or all kinds of different things like that. Stuff that card sleeves are another big thing. If you know you're going to be buying some new sets of the next, Magic or Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh, rather than like buying some of those cards and then going, oh geez, I guess I should get more sleeves. Just get the sleeves now, because if they're in stock, it also is a situation, and we've seen this with some stores where they've been having a hard time getting the stock. So if they had it
Mm-hmm.
in stock and you buy it now, then you at least get it. Whereas
Right.
if you don't do it now, you might not be able to get it as easily later, because it might not even be an issue for them. It might just be distribution down the road, down the supply chain, that's causing
Right.
troubles. We're
Yeah, I don't.
starting to see that turn around, but
Yeah, but at the same time, with the numbers going back up, it could go the other
mhm,
way. So
exactly.
right now, I'm kind of doing the, if I have nothing to do for 3 weeks, I want to make sure I have stuff to keep me busy and have fun.
Exactly.
But
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, kind of planning ahead. Like and this is going to sound strange. I think I have enough models in my basement to keep me busy for a while. Like I don't necessarily need to buy any more miniatures. I'm good.
right,
But
you have more unpainted, unopened miniatures than I think I've ever bought, and probably
maybe
maybe one other gamer.
could be, could be. But there are times you run out of a certain color, or there's times
Right.
your brushes are starting to get ratty, or whatever. So thinking about those things, going in, making a purchase, if you can't afford it, making a bigger purchase so that you're planning ahead and not having to make as many trips, and it also helps them now, as opposed to, like, if you think to yourself, well, I'll come back in another 3 weeks and pick up that other little thing, or that pick up these other little things, they may not be there. You know what I mean? And it may not even
Right.
be that they've gone out of business, but they may have just had to shut their doors for a while until whatever kind of local lockdown
Hmm.
turned off again, or whatever. And so there's a lot of different things like that. There's another thing you can do as well that's really helpful, financially, again, if you can afford it, and that's to buy gift cards.
Mm.
If you can buy a gift card, you're basically giving them money now, and then the idea is that they've got that money, and then later on when things are better, you can come in and then you can get the product.
Right.
Now,
With
admittedly,
holidays coming up, you can also ask for gift cards too.
yes, absolutely. The one issue that I would tell you to maybe just keep an eye on, though, and this is a tough one, but the one idea is that you have to also kind of think about like, if they go out of business, they may not be able to support your gift card. You know what I mean? You buy a
Hmm.
$50 gift card and they have to Chapter 11 or whatever, I don't know, go out of business, then they may not be able to. So you kind of need to keep a little bit of a close eye on like how things are doing, and maybe whatever. And that's a tough one, but it can help. It's almost like buying war bonds a little bit. You know what I mean?
Oh,
uh ex-
that's a good way to look
yeah.
at it.
There's actually, I read an article as I was doing a little bit of research for this episode, and there was a store, and I forget where it was based out of, but they were doing something that they were referring to as plague checks, and basically what it was you would buy a gift card from them, which was a plague check, and then later on, and I don't know what the date was, but later on, I think that they were in a situation where they were actually like in a shutdown, like
Okay.
they weren't supposed to be open in their area, but you could still like order online or whatever, do a plague check, and let's say you gave them $100 for a plague check. When they get to be able to start selling things again, you would get back $120 worth of product, so you'd be actually like kind of getting like a discount on the
Oh,
product you'd
like
be
a saving.
buying.
Yeah. So a true bond. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So I mean, and that was a smart move, I think, on their part. So
Yeah. That's
it's
cool.
interesting to see like how that'll work out. But maybe your store's doing something like that, your local store. But if it's not even, something like gift cards can also be helpful to help give them an influx of cash for now, and then but even then, if you were just like, you know, I've been wanting to buy this particular board game and you have it in stock, I'm going to get it now because I have the money now. You have it now. Everybody wins. Or I need this, or I've been thinking about that. If you can at all afford it, in your budget, pull the trigger now as opposed to later, because these guys are going to need the money currently as opposed to later on down the road. I mean,
Right.
we're at this point, how long into this now? 7 months?
Yeah. At
Started in
least
March. Yeah.
for
Seven.
us, I think some people
Yeah.
were January and February. Yep.
That's true. That's true. But here in the United States, it's basically been about 7 months. So there's a lot of stores that at this point have kind of figured out certain things to do. A lot of them are selling online themselves, and then they do like a curbside pickup and things like that. But if you are, just because they're selling online doesn't mean that they're immediately at Amazon.com. You know what I mean? That just
Right.
means that people who know who they are finding it easier to order from them and then pick it up. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's now all of a sudden they're millionaires. You know what I mean? Like that's not how it works.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's like there's that old commercial for, I think it was for FedEx or UPS or something, and it was this group of people who were like part of an office, and then the guy sitting at the table, and he like clicks enter. He's like, all right, our website's live, and then they got an order, and they're like, yay, and then they got a second order, and they're like, yay, and then it just started to like snowball, and they were getting
Right.
hundreds. And I'm like, okay, and like as a person who's worked in this industry for a long time, that never happens. That's just not the way that the internet works. Unless you
Right.
had already done like months worth of marketing and had a countdown on your website, and it was something that was, it's just turning on your website doesn't automatically make it so that sales come.
Oh, it'd
So
be
as a
nice if it
store,
did.
yeah, oh, it totally would. No, don't get me wrong. But as a store, if your local store does have online ordering available, it can help you to be able to look and see what's available, order stuff, come pick it up curbside, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So besides,
Just
though,
buying.
yeah, financial, other ways you can kind of stay connected and kind of help to support your local game store and your local like community. Like what other, like, social media, right?
Right, right. A lot of times, just showing them that, just liking them, even if you like them and then like hide their posts on, a certain website company
Hmm.
that's owned by a certain person, um, that still helps them when other people are searching.
Yeah,
It helps with their
that's
search
true.
results and stuff like that. So, it doesn't mean that you have to flood your stuff now with all your local game stores
Sure.
information, but it might at the same time, a lot of times they're not just posting stuff because they're just trying to spam you. They're showing you that they've got something new in stock that you might not have known was even coming out.
Hmm. Or they've had to
Or
change their hours potentially due to,
right, change their hours,
again,
or yeah, something,
pandemic and
or
all that.
they maybe they have a sale going on.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's every store has their own unique sales. One of our stores around here does blue moon sales. Every time there's a blue moon, they have a blue moon sales. So
Hmm, that's cool.
there's unique stuff. Every store kind of has their thing. So
Yeah.
you might learn some stuff about your local store you didn't realize about that.
Right. When
Well, they
it's
started
one of
up.
those like, you don't know what you got till it's gone sort of situations. Well,
Right.
if it's a situation like you were just like, oh, the store is just the store and I go there if I need to. Well, now if you're a little bit more invested in it because you want that store to stick around so that it is available, you might find out some things about it, about the way that they do. Again, like you're right, like discounts or sales. They may have a rewards program that you didn't know because you weren't going in there that frequently. I mean, there's a lot of things you can learn by following social media. And admittedly, some stores do social media all wrong, or some of them they got a Twitter account and they never use it. I mean, you got that too. But
Right.
taking a look and seeing like how are they trying to interact and then trying to get into that kind of path can help, not just to help support them, but also for you to learn more about the store and maybe find out more about them, which can be useful too. Sometimes the stores have got like a Discord server or something like that, for like, or what's the other one, like a Facebook group or whatever, to just like say, hey, I'll be at the store on this date to do this, or I'm looking to play that. Now they may not be able to play in the stores right now, but sometimes just that local kind of connection you might be able to find, and it depends on the genre and the game, but you might be able to play a game of like a D&D online sort of a, like a
Right.
thing.
Or
Or you might be able to
Tabletopia or something. Yeah.
Tabletopia. Yep. You might be looking for people who are playing board games in your local area. You might be looking for people who are playing tabletop simulator of, I don't
Right.
know, Star Wars Legion or Star Wars X-Wing or, Warhammer 40,000 or Age of Sigmar, all kinds of different stuff.
Right.
And
Because you can't play another game of Risk with your grandmother. You've got to find somebody else.
right. Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. Um, yeah. So that kind of stuff, like staying connected with them doesn't really cost you anything, but it can still
Right.
help you like figure out again, because and like Matt said, a lot of these stores are also going to be trying to do sales to help drive people into the store, or at least
right.
drive people to curbside pickup or
And,
whatever.
and they're still there, and maybe before your stores weren't great at responding to email, or you never had to email them. Like I know one of our stores, we would go in almost weekly, because the place we were eating at was next door, so we would always go in a certain
Yeah,
day of the week.
place we
Um,
liked for lunch was across the street. So
Right. So we would ask
yeah,
all the time, like, "Oh, when's this coming out, or when's that?" Well, we're not doing that. So now I'm
yeah,
like, "Oh, I'll start emailing." So I don't email them every week, but
hmm
I do email questions like, "Oh, hey, you heard, is this game coming out still?" Especially now, like I used to, go, "Oh, I know this is coming out this month." Now I have no idea.
yeah,
But I've been able to pre-order and get information on request, or if they have something in stock,
hmm
just by emailing them or phoning them, or like Facebook Messenger. There's a couple, everybody kind of has their own kind of way to keep in contact, or multiple ways. So,
yeah. Every store kind of has their preferred sort of communication vector as far as it reaches to online. Like for phone, it's
hmm
generally the phone. That's how that works.
right,
But you for some stores are heavy into Facebook, some stores are heavy into Twitter, some stores are heavy into just straight email or whatever, and that's fine. But yeah, definitely something like that is, I think, a good idea for helping to keep engaged with your store. What about keeping engaged just with your gaming in general, which then, by extension, hopefully causes you to still be interested in buying tabletop games and stuff like that. So,
okay,
like what I'm talking about is that if you stop tabletop gaming altogether, then there's not much of a
okay,
reason for you to go to the store, right? To the local store.
sure, maybe,
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah.
maybe,
I mean, so what we've been talking about a little bit, and we've done some other episodes that are kind of touching on this about like how, what if you can't get together and play right now, well, what is it you should do, instead?
right, right, right. Okay,
So,
yep,
like, yeah, so like we've talked a little bit about like, and again, this is kind of my interest area, but miniature wargaming. Like, and we said this previously, I think on another episode, like now, and I've said it on my YouTube channel, now is the time to paint your armies because you're not really able to get together and play. So very frequently, one of the
right,
reasons you don't sit down to paint your army is because you're like, well, if I paint my army, then my army's out of commission for a while and I can't take it to the shop to play when it's like half painted or whatever, because I'll ruin the half painted paint job before it's done, or whatever. All these different, kind of excuses
right,
and things. Now you've got no excuse. Now you've got time because you're not playing generally. And then if you're sitting and taking the time to paint and work on your armies, well, you're going to need some more paint. Probably you're going to need some brushes, and then and maybe even some more models. And that's giving you another reason to go and be able to work with your local game store in those situations. Like, what about
right.
with board gaming? Board gaming is a different kind of animal, obviously.
Right. So I mean, there's still board games coming out. There's
Sure.
still stuff
Yep.
to play. There's still expansions. Maybe one of the games that you've liked for a while, and that the family's been kind of using to keep through the pandemic. Maybe there's a new expansion out for it, or something that's
hmm
very similar to it that you just found out is coming out or has been out. Uh, Pick that up. Mix it
Yeah.
up. You don't have to play Sorry for the next 9 months. Still, there's other
Oh,
games
that
out
would be
there.
terrible.
um, but yeah, do that, or like what I've started doing is starting to like paint and organize some of my games. Like some of mine, I'm
hmm
I just saw a fantastic paint on. I think it was on your paint showcase
On Facebook.
Facebook group.
hmm
Yeah, for Cthulhu Death May Die.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I've been looking at like I'm like, oh, those are such cool models. I want to paint them, but I don't have time. And
hmm
and also like I don't want to pull them out when they're half painted. Well, now I have time to paint them all, and so
Right. So
yeah,
that eventually, when you get to start playing again, they'll all be done.
yeah. Everybody was like, oh, this is an amazing game. Did these all come pre-painted? You're like, no, I did them myself.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
right, uh,
Yeah. And then with like role playing games, obviously you're still quite invested with role playing games, and the benefit is that role playing games are probably one of the easiest of these things to do online because it's
right.
mainly a lot
But
of
yeah, so
conversation.
my biggest role-playing purchase pre-pandemic was minis, like WizKid minis and
hmm
um, Reapers and stuff like that. I buy all kinds of characters coming out. Haven't been buying those as much, but at the same time, one of the things that used to bug me was like, reading ahead of my supplement and knowing a certain monster was coming and going to the store and going, they're out. They don't
Hmm.
have hey, that doesn't seem to be the case right now because I'm not alone in buying less. So now I'm getting to buy some of the ones that I wasn't able to buy before because they were always constantly out of them.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have been able to do that, but I've been finding some other stuff to do. Like I've been getting like I bought a dice tray. Never really had a need for a dice tray. Well, now that I've talked about not even just for role playing, but doing some like the online board gaming where we're sharing the your dice rolls and stuff. Like everybody rolls their own dice.
Yep.
Um, being able to take your camera, your iPhone camera or Android, and place it over a dice tower and roll your dice is a lot easier than trying to do it and rolling on a table where they go everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
It keeps the rolled dice into a relatively tight little corral so that the camera can be pointing at them and everybody can see them. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been using my
Yeah,
dice
yeah.
tray way more than I ever thought I would. Um,
And that's
I've
the type
also
of
been,
thing that you would get at stores very frequently.
yeah, I've also been buying more supplements like cards and stuff for like spells and
Hmm.
monsters and stuff like that. That normally I would just flip through the book while we're playing at the table. Well, now we're online. Some like I've talked about, like battles go a lot faster. Everything's kind of at a quicker pace on some of that stuff. So some of the
Hmm.
times where I used to be able to like look up and write down notes and stuff like that has gone away, or I just don't have the space with my computer now in the way. So I've
Yeah.
been picking up the cards and stuff so that I can just grab the stack of cards and look through them real quick versus
Hmm.
having to like put 30 bookmarks in my book and flip back and
Right.
forth.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
that is helpful.
and then and dice because
Sure.
I know that like I know D&D Beyond's ask is now start like beta testing rolling dice. Roll 20, obviously has dice rolling.
Hmm.
But physical dice still, I don't know. There's still something that about rolling physical dice that seems nice,
Yeah.
and every single dice will eventually betray you.
That's
So
true.
you've got to buy that next dice because that's going
Hmm.
to be the dice that eventually is not ever going to roll a one when you don't want it to.
Well, when
Um,
dice betray you, you throw them in the river, right?
yeah, that's
And then you
how
need more dice. That's how I've been
right,
always doing it, right? I'm
right.
pretty
That's
sure
how
that's
that
the
grows.
standard.
Yeah, it rolls out to the sea, and then that
Yeah.
releases the kraken, and
Sure. Yeah. That makes yeah no that totally sounds right on board. With collectible card gaming, like it's with collectible card gaming, it's kind of weird because like if you and like maybe some of your family play, that's cool, or if you've got a small kind of safe like pod of friends that you can play socially distanced with, sort of, like you guys get together but you're wearing masks at someone's house or whatever the deal is, or if it's warm enough you can play outside like without the cards blowing all over, I
right,
suppose is
right,
also an issue. But then you can continue to play and add cards to your decks because the Magic Wizards is still producing Magic the Gathering. They're still coming out with new sets on I think it's quarterly. Is that how frequently they do it? Is it every 3 months? I don't
that sounds
know.
right.
Sounds right. Yeah. So that's a thing. And or you could be going through and organizing. There's those white cardboard boxes for like organizing your cards in, like of your bigger, larger collection. Now's the time to be able to sit down and kind of go through your collection if you also want to. It's kind of like sitting down to paint your miniatures. It's the same sort of deal.
Right.
Um, but then also, like there's some things you sort of don't want to do in this situation. Like drafting right now is not great because drafting when you're playing a draft game, there's a lot of handing the cards back and forth to each other,
Right, right, right,
which becomes a potential virus vector and all that kind of stuff. So
right. But
that's maybe not great. But
mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm.
otherwise, there's still plenty you can do in that type of gaming
Right.
to
Yeah, maybe now that you're not going and trying to, get the ultimate deck because you're going to a convention to win,
mhm.
start maybe, kind of like when you play knife mode in video games, like where you're like, okay, we're going to do like the opposite of, trying to win, but, or win with a really like weird rule,
Oh,
you
sure.
know, like for magic, maybe nobody can have a strength greater than one on any creature,
Hmm.
like have fun, get some more cards you wouldn't normally play with or normally try out, and
Yeah, no,
do something
absolutely.
different.
There's a lot of things that you can do to help your local game store through this time. Because like we mentioned earlier, the local game store is kind of a hub for a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of times I mean, sure, yeah, you can buy things online, but there's times when it's like a Saturday late afternoon and you're like, I want to get painting, but I'm out of this color. And so you run down to the local game store and you're able to get it and go home and get to painting and have a good, rest of your evening. Or there's some sort, or you need more dice or whatever. And you could order that stuff online, but it's going to take you at least a couple of days to get there. And
Right.
with the game store, that's not the case. So,
well, and like 3 weeks ago, I was one of those
yeah,
guys. I hate being those guys, but they're normally open. I think our local ones normally open at 8, but for that
mhm,
whatever reason, they were closing at 7 that night, and I
sure.
showed up at 6:59.
Hmm.
So I was that guy that they were like already starting to close up because they hadn't had a customer in like the last 5-10 minutes, so they were
Sure. Yeah.
running.
Yeah.
And I like popped in and found out like, oh shoot, you're closing. And they're like, no, go ahead, pick out what you needed. So I was still able to buy the paint, and
Hmm.
stuff because they're a local shop.
Yeah.
Target would have just been like, no, sorry, close the
Yeah.
doors.
Exactly.
You're out of here. But they were accommodating, and it saved my hobby for the night. So
Last year, I pulled up to our local GameStop here in town, the video game place, to buy
mm.
something. I don't even remember what, but I pulled up to it's in a strip mall. I pulled up. There was nobody, parked out in front. I pulled up. I got out of my car to see the kid who works there walk up to the front door and lock the door and click the close sign, looking me square in the face. Like seriously, he was just like, "No,
Right.
man, it's 8 or whatever." And I was just like standing there, just like, "Are you kidding me?" And yeah, so your local game store probably won't do that.
Right. They
So
won't tell you the ice cream machine's broken because they want to get out of it.
right, exactly. So yeah, definitely think about your local game store in this time, and if you can, definitely, if you've got the money to do so, go and buy some stuff from them to help keep them afloat. Because this is going to go on for probably a little bit longer. I have a suspicion. I'm not a scientist nor a psychic, but I have a suspicion that this is going to go on for a bit longer. So if we want to keep the tabletop games stores, available, and we want to keep the industry strong, and it's something that we should try to do if we can. Yeah. So thanks again for listening to this episode of the GameFor podcast. If you've got any questions or comments and you're watching on YouTube, please leave a comment below. If you're listening via your favorite podcast player or aren't just into the whole YouTube comment section thing, then you can feel free to reach out to us via email at podcast@imgamefor.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And check out our website at www.imgamefor.com. That is www.iamgamefor.com. Thanks.
Thanks.